Hello, everyone. This is Canucks This Week. Welcome. Thank you for listening, watching, reading, however you consume our Canucks content. I'm joined by Patrick Johnston. You can read all of Patrick's stuff and Ben's stuff and Steve's stuff and a whole bunch of other stuff at theprovince.com. Sign up there for our newsletter. We'll deliver it to you every week. Every day is how it comes. Patrick, let's dive right into it. We're in December, past the
Me.
proverbial quarter pole. We're past the proverbial U.S. Thanksgiving benchmark.
Yeah.
This team is, despite some admirable displays, I would suggest far worse than anyone thought. There was a
Yes.
piece on ESPN this week that talked about preseason odds to win the Stanley Cup, and the Canucks are 30% lower. Not that anyone thought that they were going to be in, but they're bad. They are 1 point off the worst in the NHL as we speak. Worse than any team in the East, and 1 point ahead of the Predators and Flames. What's happened?
It's funny.
Explain how we ended up at this point.
I was having a discussion literally today, so Thursday, December 4th, with someone very smart who works in the league that I have a lot of time for. And, kind of having this very kind of discussion that you were just sort of going over. And he said, in the end of the day, it shouldn't really take 10 games or 20 games or 30 games. You can debate how many games you can actually say it's a trend versus it is. And usually I wait till about 20 games. I write, well, they need to do better at this. And if this continues, this isn't good. And, and if then at 20, 25 games, you're like, well, no, they just aren't very good at defense. It's like, that's nice. They could maybe get a little bit better, but like fundamentally, they are not a very good defensive team. And he sort of sat back and said, well, really, is this team that different from last year? And I said, no, it's not. Like, you're right. What's been different? Well, Elias Pettersson's actually been far better. He has been the player they needed him to be. I joke, but unfortunately, Quinn Hughes has come to hate hockey, which isn't true. Like, Quinn Hughes is still playing great, but like, he's not been the standout superstar. But this is not at his feet. It's simply that the team has not been good enough. And of course, there's the whole story, as we've all kind of gone over the past week or two, that the number 2 center spot in the lineup has 3 goals and 1 assist, and that 1 assist is Lucas Reichel, and it's a secondary assist that had literally nothing to do with the play. So, in the end, the team going into the season was poorly designed. We should not be surprised. That said, I thought this was going to be a playoff team. I still thought there was enough there. I thought that if you went with the way the defense should be playing, I don't think any of us expected to sort of the complete tossing aside of what they did last year in terms of approach. And I mean, Adam Foote can say all he wants, but he's asking his players to read the game versus play a sort of positional game. That is different. And I don't think any of us expected it to be such a struggle defensively. And in many ways, maybe they've scored more than you expect. I mean, they're sort of league average in scoring. I get that. But like, they've gotten scoring from everybody, which has been a good thing. And so it's just a challenging season. There's just no way around it. And this team remains. I didn't think they're sort of turning into, well, I guess they are who we thought they are. We didn't. I don't know if anybody thought they'd be this poor. Most of the projection models had them on the edge. There were maybe a couple of people. Most of them had them in the 93, 95, 97. And just how
Yeah.
Anybody expect?
I mean, injuries, sure, certainly Demko has impacted them, but every team deals. Quinn Hughes missed a few games, but their best players, outside of Demko, have generally been there. So yes, they've had a lot of the depth, and that secondary sort of layer of talent hasn't been there. But yeah, I wouldn't suggest this big a drop off. You mentioned goals against. There are teams with worse goal differential, but they have given up the most goals in the league, 98. So we've talked about this a lot. I don't want to cover old ground and say the same things every week, but there's no. You mentioned sarcastically about Quinn Hughes hating hockey. It's hard to get around that. So I saw some frustration from some fans around analysis on the Halford and Bruff show that they spent an hour dissecting Quinn Hughes' body language, and like, Quinn Hughes is the least of this team's problems, right? Well, it's the elephant in the room. So if through this whole episode here, this whole video today, we'll talk about Canucks at a crossroads in a way. There is no way around this. His contract is running down. You're terrible with him, 1 point off the worst team in the NHL.
Yeah.
What is your hope to get better? Yes, there's Sherwood, but is he really going to change, what you get? You may get a nice piece, maybe a draft pick that will help down the road. Some of the other players, the names that come around last year, it was Höglander, there's two assets that you would hope would bring back significant return, and they happen to be your two best players. Let's talk about Hughes. Where do you think this is going to end up? Do you think he gets moved this year? I know there was a lot of thought, well, wait till next year at the deadline, or wait till the summer, see what happens. See if he can change his mind. If this team keeps plummeting the way they are, and the worst record in the NHL in the last 10 games, 2-6-2. If it gets worse, do you just say, let's do the rebuild now? There happens to be, a pretty special player at the top of the draft this year. So do you think he gets moved this year? Do you think it's an off-season thing? Do you think we go into next season with the same questions?
Well, I mean, the simple truth is, as I've said, this team is not playing very well. They're not getting results, And from a player perspective, I said this to Tyler Myers this morning, and who I have a lot of time for. Tyler's been here for 6 years now. It's amazing to think. And has seen a lot of frustration. And he admitted, he said, listen, I played a long time and I've seen a lot of stuff. He played in Buffalo. He was, I believe, on the last Buffalo team to make the playoffs. And if I'm not mistaken, he's the last player active from that team. I might be wrong. I'll double check. But, he has seen a lot. And I've been thinking a lot about several conversations he and I had, I think, in 2024, when things were going great. And the satisfaction he truly felt about the pride he had about how his teammates had built up a demanding but supportive culture. Like, they really believed in each other, but they also held each other to a standard. The kind of standard that, I think those who've been around the team for a while reminded, to a degree, never quite the same level, but to a degree, of that, that sort of Sedin era squad, which really held each other to account. And it's not that they're losing because they stopped holding each other to account, but they're just not playing very well. And I just said, man, this stinks. You winning is way more fun, and this sucks. And he goes, yeah. He said, in the end, this is why you've got to go every day, make it your best day. And he's old enough now that's a true life philosophy you come to hold as you get older, right? He recognizes the days, at least of his career, are far more and more. There's far fewer ahead than there are behind. That said, the true reality of this team is they haven't won, they aren't winning. And so the convention is you should mix it up. That's the easy sell here, no matter who's in charge and no matter who's setting the tone. There is a need here to change things. And so if that means talking about, as Jim Rutherford told me last week, that you need to go younger. The premise he has put forward, to just go back to the beginning of your question, the premise he's put forward, what is there to hold on to? Well, you should hold on to the plan, the notion of what they claim they're going to do. Now they've got to go do it. But the notion is that management wants to make a younger team that can be something for the future, and is a group that can grow, essentially older together and develop together. And that's, in many shape, way, or form, that is quote unquote a rebuild. Chasing after a new lineup has to be the task. And so that is it. That's it. You've got to blow it up. You've got to start again. You've got to accept reality, which is that your captain is probably going to go elsewhere. Although Myers said, I think it's way too early to talk about that. I didn't put it, but we were talking about the notion. And listen, he brought it up. that's his, he insists he does not hear the noise. He said, "Well, what about all this? What do you mean?" When he said, "I don't try not to read it." I was like, "No, no."
Yeah,
I mean,
but they talk in the locker room, Patrick. You know,
I
you've
know.
been around this,
No,
right?
I
Like,
know.
there's
I know.
there's no way the topic hasn't come up with amongst
No,
the
no,
teammates.
absolutely. Well, and I think, listen, I'm not going to put words in his mouth. I mean, I took it to mean
No, of course not.
But I took it to me in the sense of, of course it comes up, but they're like from his viewpoint, that's not even a thing. Like, Quinn's here to win, and Quinn wants to win, and that's what a little bit. The premise that I was working on is the story that people will probably have read, or this video may be attached to by the time they see the video, is what Quinn Hughes told us today was absolutely, absolutely admitted to feeling frustrated. Right? Acknowledge what people are seeing, that this is a guy that wants to win and is pushing himself to the limit. Now, the undercurrent in this story that he was putting forward, and I'm skipping ahead probably a little bit here, was him just basically saying, listen, I recognize I'm probably staying on the ice too long. And so there are moments where I think he has not gone after the puck because I think he just has no gas left. 28 minutes a night when you play 21 shifts is far different than playing 28 minutes a night when you're playing that through 29 shifts, So what does this team have? I mean, it is a tough, terrible situation they're in, right? If they are going to somehow make the playoffs, which we can't say, we can't stop talking about because they should make the playoffs, they have to win a whole bunch. Do they look like they're going to win a whole bunch? They don't. And because of that, that's why we start talking about having to just
there's 6 points out, but it's the amount of teams they have to climb over to get there, which, because it's not just making up those points. Everyone else is getting points too when you have that many teams. But if I know you don't know, and as Tyler Myers, with all due respect, says it's way too early to do it. I get that, but that's a player-centric point of view. Like, Quinn Hughes can do whatever he wants at the end of the day, right? Like, if I look at this and I go, and it was funny, you have this debate with some of our readers who contact me, and it's like they get attached to certain players. If you're not getting better, how will you get better? And when you look at those teams that have been through those lean years, the Chicagos, the San Jose's, San Jose's in a playoff spot right now. Chicago's 1 point behind them. You can see that you're willing to live with those growing pains. I don't want to say Quinn Hughes won't get better, but we already know he's an elite level player. And playing at an elite level, you're still 1 point off the bottom of the NHL. Is Pettersson going to get better? I mean, he may get closer to what we knew him as, but he's not a guy with screaming high ceiling that we're going to see. Who else is there? So therefore, if you're not getting better, and then you've got these other pieces that you can deal for smaller players, what is the hope that this team can actually contend, right? And that, to me, is, I would be calling people every day now to trade Quinn Hughes. I would not be waiting.
No, I don't think you can. I think you're absolutely right. Like, the time is now. That there is
and
no...
if as the losses keep to mount, then that accelerates that.
Yeah,
people will bitch and complain at us, and have little trust in media. But I find the advent of a lot of the different outlets to be kind of frustrating. So I was looking around for our Canucks Live piece that we sort of an aggregation of other people's news, which is fine. That's sort of what I'm complaining about that everyone else does. But you see some of this stuff. I've seen stuff out of Toronto, and I know they have hours to fill on TSN and in the sports talk radio shows. And Nice, we're not giving up Nice. What are you talking about? Well, it's Quinn Hughes. There was one out of New Jersey which made me laugh, this super indignant blog where Jesper Bratt, let me stop you right there.
How about Nico
We're
Hischier?
talking about Quinn Hughes.
No, but we're... Yeah.
Well, and that he also covers this in the blog. Like, there's no way they're getting that. Like, this is the problem when you're actually trying to make this deal. Like, I've seen all this talk about the Flyers and reuniting with Rick Tocchet. And it's like, the two things that the Flyers need are a center and a puck-moving defenseman. So they're not going to move a center. Well, then you're not getting the second best or best defenseman in the NHL. And that's the problem, isn't it, for Jim Rutherford, is everyone overvalues their own players. Like, you cannot make this deal, to me, unless you get multiple first-round picks and a high-end prospect. We're talking about a guy who comes along like...
That's exactly
Hughes and McCarr, like once every 5 years, you get players like this, right? So what is realistic? I'm not asking you to make a trade, because obviously, but I'm just saying, like, what This is
Well,
the central point for this team is what you have very few assets in order to remake their
yeah,
fortunes.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
have to maximize those assets. And I'm just curious what you think the likelihood is of a deal, because it's a very difficult deal to make.
yeah. You're absolutely right. Like, I mean, let's just think of a comparison point, right? Like 2 years ago, Eric Carlson was traded to the Penguins, right? Eric Carlson was 33 at that point. Still had a huge reputation as a puck moving, sort of Norris Trophy quality defenseman, perhaps overpaid, but in the end, the deal was like it was wild. It was a three-player trade involving San Jose, involving and Montreal, right? In the end, San Jose came away with Michael Grant and Mike Hoffman, two pretty good forwards, Jan Ruda, who's a defenseman that was big, and a first-round pick. Right, so that's what a 33-year-old top-end
Yeah.
defenseman gets, right? Like a couple pretty decent forwards, sort of a defense prospect, so Quinn Hughes at least is going to bring you back a prospect, a pick, probably a first-round pick, and probably a very good roster player, right? He's not, you are going to inherently lose the deal, right? You inherently lose the deal because he's the best player. But if you are a team like the Canucks and you're looking to move towards a younger group, you better nail that prospect, right? Like the young player you get back, you cannot miss on. And another example might be going way back, and I know we love talking about it. He's our favorite guy here. Ryan Kessler, when he was the original deal, there was a deal on the table before Gillis kind of had the keys taken away by ownership, which was going to be two first-round picks from Anaheim and a defenseman and a prospect. Now, I think the defenseman, I mean, they ended up getting Lucas Pisa, but, it was that kind. So it wasn't a standout star defenseman. And the prospect or young forward, I mean, if you remember, it was guys like Everson Edom, who didn't turn out to
Yeah.
be anything. So, like, that's a reminder of how you can misfire on a deal, right? Like, you can say, oh, this guy looks like an interesting prospect. Inherently, it's going to be one, if you're not careful, you're going to end up one of the other team's B prospects. You need an
And as good as
A-plus
Kessler
prospect.
was, Hughes is infinitely higher in terms of his value.
Exactly. Like, and that's again, right? The comparison point. I'm just saying, like, this is the kind of haul that they're almost able to get out of Bob, a general manager who was desperate to add a player like that to reinvigorate his team. Like it would, even in the end, the deal that they settled on, which wasn't, was Spisa, was a first round pick, was Nick Bonino. Like Nick Bonino was a pretty good NHL center. He was a second line center. So like that's the kind of thing. Like that's what a sort of an aging checking center gets, or a two-way center, I should say, gets you. Aging Eric Carlson still got them Michael Granlund, who, is by all intents, he is the second line. He's the second line forward anyway. It's just it is the reality of what you're doing when you're trading your star player. You do need to hold up for the best you're going to get, but the best you're going to get still probably doesn't measure what you think you should get. And is that about what you said already? I mean, is that a little bit of a case of overvaluing your own players? I mean, that happens. Like the Canucks
Oh, it
probably
happens all the
overvalued
time.
Dakota Smith, right?
It's happened here forever. We joke about it like Ballard, Raymond, and a second. Like not a premium first round pick, and a couple of guys who once had promise who, you know, they're not going to end up being stars. I mean, just look at Lucas Reichel, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
first round pick, okay, it didn't happen in Chicago. We'll give him a shot. Right away why it didn't happen in Chicago. So
Yeah.
I think that this is the thing that we're not talking, with all due respect, about a Brock Besser or a Thatcher Demko. We're talking about Quinn Hughes in his prime can win you a cup. And this is it. Like this is the dilemma for Jim Rutherford, and this is why I would be open to dealing him now, because the closer you get to that deadline, the harder it is to make. And it's clear this team is not going anywhere. Like if you were to say Höglander comes back, Hedl comes back, Demko's healthy, can you really play at an 800 clip for a couple of months at least to get into that, get across that playoff line and pass Seattle and Chicago and Winnipeg and Edmonton and St. Louis? I don't know. Like, so I'm not sure those deals are possible. So I think he has to be very crafty in how he deals with this. But, and again, just look at the teams that are ahead of him, right? Edmonton and Winnipeg in particular, like everyone's waiting for them to turn it on. There's too much talent for those two teams to not be in the playoffs. So
Right.
it's not just like, well, are Utah and San Jose going to slide out of the playoffs? It's like how many teams ahead of you are going to slide in. So
Well,
I
that's it.
just think realistically, when you look at this,
Yeah.
it's really like sell high, sell as much as you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know for ownership that's hard to take because what does that do to your ticket sales? You and I are talking about you've kind of transitioned over to helping us cover the Whitecaps. In fact, covering the Whitecaps. They're in a championship game. They sold 52,000 tickets.
Yep.
The city, I was out on Main Street last Saturday and the bars were full and it was a Saturday night and
People were watching.
soccer's on the television.
Yep.
There's a buzz, whether it's Lionel Messi or Heung-min Son coming to town. There's a buzz about that. What I asked you this before we started recording. I asked you this earlier today. What Canucks game gets you excited that
Yeah.
you might bump into people? Hey, you going to the game tonight? I can't think
No.
of one.
No. No, and you're right. I mean, and that's how far things have come. Like they used to be. Oh, I got tickets. I mean, there's still. It's funny. There's sort of two halves to the statement. Oh, I got tickets to the game tonight because
Yeah.
there is still an element. I do know people that entertain clients that will get a box for clients or whatever, and there's still. Oh, did you want to go to the Canucks game? There's still an element of that. But I do. I mean, I also know that that there's sort of that sort of corporate crowd that it's also like I'd rather spend my money somewhere else, right? Like, and I don't know if that's an entertainment value statement or as much a value, just a simple statement about how much it costs to go. Like it is a challenging ticket. And the other thing is that like we talked about the Habs and the Leafs being sort of the big ticket draws. Well, the Habs didn't sell out. You can go at as I wrote about the time, you can go at two ways. Well, they didn't sell out. They still almost did, despite all the prices, right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's just not. It's not a place where you're like. It's become very like, oh yeah, I guess I'll go to the Canucks. Maybe, yeah. Like I have buddies who get excited. Like I asked them, they're involved with the Leishers, and I asked them, I said, is there a point at which even the buzz of doing the Leishers thing makes it not worth it for you? And that the sort of consensus is, and this stood out to me, is that in the end, because Larsheider tickets are a lot cheaper than it's a very interesting little setup. They basically have turned it into a group sales kind of deal. Tickets are a lot cheaper than face. And that's why those guys are still going. Because if those tickets went higher, if they went up to three figures or something, like $100, $100 more, they're not doing it. Like it's just not worth it to them.
We absolutely cannot discount the what it means to buy a ticket to a Canuck game for a lot of people with the economy and the state that it is these days. But having said that, even someone giving you free tickets, it's a rainy Thursday night. You got a couple of other things on the go. Do you want to go see? I know that tomorrow's Friday night, weekend games are always, but it's a fun night out. I've been a sports fan my whole life, as I know you have. Like going to a sporting event is fun. There's no way around that. I just don't see, and belying my age here, but I remember my dad would get tickets through work, and he'd be like, "I got tickets to the Canadians, Larry Robinson, Guy Lafleur, or later the Oilers, Messier, Coffee, Gretzky." There was like around town, it was palpable. Your friends would be jealous of you. You're going to get to go see Gretzky. And I just look at the Canucks these days and it's like, oh, free ticket. Sure, I'll go. But like, what's motivating people to make it an event? Now, Quinn Hughes should be that guy, right? Like you want to see Quinn Hughes. He's a great player. He still does things, where you look at him and go like, wow, he is special. And so I think that's why it's very hard for people to acknowledge that they're going to part with that. Yeah. But with where this franchise has gone since 2011, man, it's tough. It's tough. You look so far away from a championship right now. And the only way, was written about, it kind of went around NHL circles about a month ago, was picking top three.
It's I mean, it also speaks to a mentality in terms of how you view your fans. What are your fans here for? Are they here to be seen? Or are they here for the experience? And more and more, I think the answer is that the mentality from the top is that you should, being seen at things is what matters. It's not the experience. It's not what happens in front of you. Everything is transactional. So you show up. I've given you money. Now I've showed up at the Canucks, right? You hear all kinds of stories about them in business dealings. That's how they operate. Well, we're the Canucks. So it's not great. It's not fun. Like I mean, like I said, I go back to this conversation I had with Tyler and with Myers, and I said, you guys are in it. In the end, I mean, he's very philosophical. They do get paid an immense amount of money to do this, so that part helps. but in the core of them, they want to win, and they want to be. They do want to entertain, and they want to win, and they want to play, and they love the roar of the crowd, right? Like, that is the truth there. They're just not doing enough of it, and I don't blame people for really hesitating to go.
It's an interesting conversation because you understand how badly these guys want to win. And I'm not suggesting anyone's not trying to win or not putting in their hardest, but when you look at a player like Hughes, like, yeah, you're being compensated pretty well. This market adores you. Does that have any sway if he's considering what his next move is?
Myers?
Yeah. No, Hughes.
Hughes. Oh, I mean, I go back to what Rutherford said to me when I said to him, the sort of the reality of winning, how that could drive this whole story. And, Jim's response was basically, yeah, winning's important. It's not the whole story. So, which left a wide open door. Left me thinking, I mean, I wasn't going to press him. I mean, there was sort of something to push on there, but I mean, it's a ongoing dialogue, I think. But it was kind of like, which is what? Like, the organization? Wanting to play with your brothers? Location where you live? Like, whatever. Like, I don't know. I do think it does. It did stand out despite all that we had this pretty good conversation with Quinn Hughes, and I put it to him and said, listen, people have been noticing you're looking frustrated. Like, how frustrated are you? And he just said, listen, I want to win. Like, this is why I'm here, and obviously it's difficult. And I can handle these things better, basically, is what he said. So, I don't think he's calling up his agent every day and saying, get me out of here, right?
No. I think, look, for him, I think he's got nothing but time, right?
Yes,
like, the closer it gets to the end of the contract, the more he's in control, the more leverage he has.
Yeah.
But that's, it is an interesting comment from Rutherford. Yeah, there may be like comfort, there may be market. And I would love to one day maybe pick Luongo's brains on this because, there's a guy who was in this hockey desert, came to Vancouver, was absolutely adored, didn't get to win the cup, but was experienced like walking the seawall, everything, was having dinner, everyone, but in a very genial, like, people love the guy, and then went back to Florida. And would you rather make the same amount of money in a place where no one knows who you are and people don't really care about hockey? Or do you want to play in a market where you can't go out for dinner with your family without being, hey, can I get a selfie? Like, it's a really, I think for players who have been here, it's a little bit different. But that, I mean, you're right. There's no way around that Quinn Hughes just doesn't look like he wants to be here. And I think that that's a growing problem. It's a growing problem with the fans.
Yeah.
As they see no hope.
Yeah. I mean, I would say he's put on the right face. At least he did today. We'll see how things go. But it is hard not to square with the point I made a couple of weeks ago that he looks miserable and he has no story. I mean, he at least came with a story to tell today. And that's an important thing because fans need to hear that. What do you think, Quinn? And if he, that's part of his job, like it or not, is to tell his fans. I mean, we're the conduit to those fans. That's why we ask the questions. Yeah.
Okay, Patrick, there were a couple of other roads, but we can get to those next week. We've gone on long enough about this, but I do think it's a crossroad.
I think we are. You're right.
Quinn Hughes is standing there with the traffic sign at the crossroads of where this franchise is, and I think it's a fascinating debate. We'll see where it goes. And on the point of buzz, I mean, there may be some novelty for Utah coming for the first time on Friday.
No, they've been here before, just not as the Mammoth.
Well, that's what I mean, right? Like, it's a new. They have been here before, but it's the mascot, it's the uniform. Like, not that matters. My point is, I don't know how much buzz there is about that. Minnesota here on Saturday. Thankfully, the Whitecaps game is an afternoon game, 11 or morning game. Otherwise, that would be interesting. And then Detroit here on Monday, and then Buffalo the following Thursday. So, how many games do they win out of these next 4?
Well, we got Mammoth, Wild, Red Wings, Sabres. 4-game homestand. I mean, watch them flip the dial on us and go and win them all, right?
That's what I'm going to pick. I'm going to say they'll be 4-0 because
you're going to go 4-0. I'm going through.
I can't be any more foolish than I've been lately.
This week. I'm going to be an optimist this week and say 3-1.
Okay. Detroit, the game they lose?
Of course.
And then this time next week, we'll be looking ahead to a Sunday morning game in New Jersey, so we can talk about Quinn Hughes all over again.
Well, I might be away next week, Paul.
Oh, that's right. You might be away next week. All right, everyone. So thanks for listening. Buy Patrick's book on genealogic over his shoulder there for Christmas. Any Canuck fan would love to have that book. Some great stories in there. Great reviews already. So Patrick, thanks for your time. Thanks everyone for listening. Subscribe to Canucks Report at theprovince.com. We will talk to you. We'll talk to you next week in some form.
We'll figure it out.